What's up, everyone? Mike from What the Fun. This debate section is from our latest episode of Test Your Might, the weekly video game debate show. The full episode is found on any podcast app of choice, with Apple and Spotify links down below. Thanks for watching. Enjoy.
Are you guys ready for the main segment of the show? Test Your Might.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Born ready.
Born ready. As for the first debate, the Worlds of Warcraft debate. Since the ABK deal is almost done, let's bring one of their biggest games to the new generation. So, which would be better and why? A brand new WoW game, a version 2 per se, where every gamer will start fresh, or a port of the original remastered to keep the long-standing fans happy with their current players and games. Chris, which one would you like to go with? The brand new version 2.0 or the original port?
Brand new.
Brand new it is. You've got Worlds of Warcraft or version 2. Cicero, you're going to have the original remaster to bring the old outstanding fans back in the saddle again. Chris, go ahead. The floor is yours.
This actually goes back to a long-standing sort of criticism that I've had for WoW. And full disclosure, my experience with WoW is relatively limited. I did try to play it because my brother was really into it, so he sort of tried to bring me into the fold for it back when it was in its heyday. Like, this must have been 2006, 2007 that I jumped into it. And even then, it started to feel like it might have been maybe a little long in the tooth. And my understanding, based on community response, has been that, you know, the expansions are of debatable quality. It doesn't seem like there's any that have come out of, at least over the past few years, that have really set the community on fire in a positive way. So what did they do? What was it, back in 2016? They released World of Warcraft Classic, right? And it's supposed to get back to the game of old that everybody initially fell in love with. And it's just like, come on, guys. It's time to try and push things forward. I know that there's an immense amount of pressure on whether or not a team has the possibility to deliver anything that could live up to the magnitude of the original. That game was an extraordinarily influential MMO on virtually every possible level. You know, how are you supposed to follow that? Well, I'd at least like to see you try. And it seems like World of Warcraft has been skipping along on its laurels now for the better part of 20 years. So it seems like it's a franchise that might be due for a bit of a refresh. Gaming hardware has advanced significantly during that time. I don't need to tell you guys that. There are a lot of new ways to potentially try and apply those kinds of core experiences and to try and break potentially new territory with them. If this is going to be a new beginning for Activision and Blizzard at large, then how better to try and incorporate that than with the return and really the rebirth of one of the single most influential MMORPGs that has ever been created. I think that's just skipping along on your laurels works for only so long. I can't imagine that there is nearly as much revenue potential in the future of just sort of keeping the original game on life support for longer and longer and longer. Give it a new coat of paint. Okay, sure. If it's still the same underlying experience underneath, then how are you really supposed to break new ground and actually get people excited about it again? You're going after the whales. You're going after the people who love that original game so much that they will continue to give you money, but each year that passes, that's a diminishing pool of players. Whereas if you actually did put the time, effort, attention, budget, team on the possibility of creating a wholly new experience in that world that so many people fell in love with, try that and see what happens, because I think the upside is a lot bigger than the downside.
Chris, I've got 2 words for you. Overwatch. It's 1 word. But that's all I need. Because, you know, I hear all this stuff about what you're saying, like, oh, it's time for a refresh. It's a little long in the tooth. It's all of these things. What Blizzard has shown is that when it comes to a gaming franchise where it is long-standing and perpetual, and it is working, they can't refresh it. You took Overwatch, a game that people were actively playing, and you created Overwatch 2, and you tried to loop them both in together, and you ruined both of them. Now no one's playing Overwatch or Overwatch 2. And now what you're suggesting is that Blizzard does that again with the World of Warcraft. We'll take WoW and we'll make WoW 2. And then what we'll do is we'll alienate the 1.2 million people that are actively playing the game, and the almost 2 million people that are actively subscribing to the game, and alienate them even further by saying, oh, okay, well, yes, you were subscribed to that game. Now you can subscribe to this game also. You can keep your stuff in that game, and you can subscribe to this new game. No. I already know that I got 2 million people paying me monthly to be invested in a world. I want to add to that number. I don't want to subtract from that number. And what you're saying is, and you'd subtract that number down to almost zero, just like Overwatch 2. We don't need that in our lives. What we need is more of the same, so that we can increase those numbers. There are people that have never played a true MMO RPG in the way that WoW is, and especially on console, that they really haven't had a chance to get involved. We've played Destiny, and Destiny is cool, you played some Final Fantasy, or you've played ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, on your consoles. But this is the granddaddy of them all. This is the one that all of those games were trying to emulate, and it's World of Warcraft. This is it. This is the one. And you can play it with your grandma, who's been playing on her PC since 2002, and now you can play on your console. This is awesome, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be something new. It should be the old thing. Give it a new touch of paint. Beautiful thing. Yeah, don't. If it ain't broke.
You're right, Cicero. It's the same. Comparing World of Warcraft and its lack of a sequel is the same as Overwatch.
Yeah, I am right. Thank you.
Except 6 years passed between Overwatch and Overwatch 2, and it has been nearly 20 since the release of the original version of World of Warcraft.
Sure.
And I feel like those situations are very different, because Overwatch 2, for all intents and purposes, like most sequels, even though that's a longer cycle, all things considered, it's still far shorter, and it's still just giving the first one while adding a couple of additional features. Basically, if you want to just to boil it down and be a bit reductive, that's what Overwatch 2 is in comparison to the first one. You cannot do that if you develop a new World of Warcraft game. You will be forced, the development team will be forced to try and figure out, okay, what were the core fundamentals of the original game's experience that required so much investment and time on the part of our players, and how can we possibly deliver that with the metrics of current hardware standards to give them that while also giving them so much more. Because there is nothing that is challenging, there is nothing that is unpredictable about World of Warcraft anymore. It's just too simplistic by modern standards. It is too stuck in the past. And if you really want to create new fans for the Warcraft franchise at large, you could do two things. You could make a movie, but they did that and it failed, or
they made a Warcraft.
You could make a new game. You could make a new game and try and reset the paradigm. I'm not saying it's easy or that it's a guaranteed success, but at least it signals, it telegraphs far more ambition than the people in charge of Warcraft today, World of Warcraft today, have now.
Ladies, gentlemen, and other fellow humans, allow me to give you a glance behind the curtain and say that while Chris may believe the things that he is saying right now, he doesn't believe them with his full heart. I'm going to tell you why. Because right now, as if you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/whatthefunpod, and you hit the like button and you're watching this debate right now, you'll see what Chris is wearing. If you're not watching on YouTube, you can watch on YouTube. You can go ahead and do that. But if you happen to be listening to the podcast right now instead of watching, you're going to watch later. Let me spoil something for you. Chris Cloud right now is wearing an NX-01 hat, right? For Star Trek Enterprise. One of his favorite shows from his favorite franchise. A franchise that he watches repeatedly and regularly. He was just talking earlier today about talking about the games that he was playing, how he was replaying Spider-Man, So he was playing a game from his past when he could be playing something new, but he's playing something from his past in anticipation for a new game, sure. But he was playing something from his past. So, just to get himself reacquainted, to have good feelings, to make himself feel fulfilled on the inside. Justin, in the laundry litany of games that he was playing, he talked about all the games that he was playing. There was one game that he attempted to play, Diablo 4. And he said, I went in to go and play, and I had to start over from level 1, and the game got harder, and I just don't have the time to invest in slogging through that game, so I put it down. Right? So what Justin said to us, Chris, what you said to us was that I want to play something that is familiar. I want to be able to pick up a game that I may have played in the past and see that the progress that I made in the past is still there, and I can progress further from that. And, if I do have to grind, if the game is simple enough, the grinding's not too hard. It's not too intrusive. I don't have to do a lot. I can do other things. So it's not the time sink that it used to be. I can just enjoy it with my friends and have it be a pastime as opposed to a grind. And that is one of the things that when people were trying to sell WoW to me, that was one of the things that they were selling to me, was that this was a communal affair where I'd be able to play this game with my friends, and the action in the game is less important than being with your friends. And that is why that game is still important.
Look, I'm more than happy to invoke my clothing because you're absolutely right. This hat is from a TV show that is the better part of 20 years old. A little over if you want to go back to the first season. But you made a critical miscalculation. I love pointing out the legacy and how much I do love the things that came from the past. Sure. But if you'll notice my shirt,
Strange
the shirt
New World
that I'm
for listeners.
wearing,
Yes.
Star Trek Strange New Worlds is actually the Star Trek TV show that is on the air right now. You can listen to Discovery Debrief and hear Cicero and I talk about it on a weekly basis to break down the season.
I'm going to start keeping
Here's
track.
what's great. Here's what's great about Strange New Worlds, okay? It is built on a foundation of everything that I love about the original series, which is my personal favorite of all of the Star Trek shows. But it is doing it in a modern context by rebuilding the wheel and telling new stories with familiar characters. We're learning things about them that we never learned before. We are seeing the impact that some of those characters will have on the future of the franchise as we know it in the timeline of the Star Trek universe. But it is told in a reverent way for what has come before, but that does not make it shy away from telling all new stories. There is no reason World of Warcraft can't do what Star Trek Strange New Worlds is brilliantly doing on a weekly basis and remember the past while pushing the franchise boldly into the future.
Cicero, this is your last one. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So you're correct. Those things could happen, but we already have evidence, as I've already said. We have evidence from this publisher that they don't necessarily have their finger on the pulse of how to make a sequel from a game that was designed to have a long tail, and the tail and is working as designed. They don't know how to innovate on that. All they know how to do is to add to that. And if they try to take away from that, the likelihood of them not being successful is way too high. And you will definitely make people like Justin out of loyal fans, out of people that loved. Justin loved Diablo 4. He was having a blast playing that game. And now he's not playing it anymore because he was already prepared for the reality of having to start fresh with a level 1 character. But they also made it harder. And the reality of starting over with a level 1 character and trying to grind your way back to 50 was too daunting for him. Instead of what they could have done, right? And this isn't even Blizzard, but this is Activision. This is a cousin, right? What they could have done was give you the option of making a new character with better, like, oh, okay, you could get better drops or something like that, or your drop rate would increase with a new game plus type of character or something like that. But they didn't give him that option. His only option was to start over with a fresh character, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to take door number C, that's right, I said it, and I'm going to choose to not play anymore. And that is what you are asking these World of Warcraft players, the almost 2 million of them that are putting down their money month after month to do, to make that choice. That I've got to start over. I've been playing this daggone character or these sets of characters for over 2 decades, for a generation. And now you're telling me all of that stuff, everything that I worked on is null and void, and I got to start from scratch with something else. No, thank you. Not in my house. Not on my watch.
Okay. All right. I think there were some major flaws on a couple of argument points. One, Diablo 4 has been out for a month and a half, 2 months, comparatively to the 20 years that WoW has been out. Also, this is a patch for Diablo, not a entirely new game. So that's where that flaw was. There, it's not it's a new season, sure, but it's the same game that's changed dramatically. That's like if WoW was to release a patch that would make it incredibly more hard for a newcomer, which it already is a daunting task. Clow, you had some great points when it came to starting fresh and getting the new paint job and also the new kind of way for new players to join in and feel like they're on an even playing ground. Cicero, on the other hand, had the Spider-Man argument, which kind of fell flat when he said that you were in anticipation for the new game coming out. But it was a fun ride. Clau, I'm going to give this point to you.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna say a brand new WoW game is the better option here, even if it does mean making players that have been playing it for 20 years start fresh. The new company of the brand new players would be more beneficial, in my opinion, and it would feel as if they were on an even playing field, which is much better than joining into a 20-year-old game, which with subpar DLC.
Tip my hat to you, sir, Cicero.